Are there people around you like this? Perhaps you've experienced it before. Just moments ago, you were discussing a topic cheerfully, only to see the other person suddenly burst into tears, leaving you feeling helpless. When they're feeling down, you approach with good intentions, seeking to comfort and understand, only to be met with their unleashed anger. They seem solely focused on venting their emotions, completely disregarding how others feel. If they're not happy, they might resort to extreme measures to hurt others, forcing them to conform to their wishes. These are all manifestations of being emotional. Emotional individuals often struggle to control their emotions rationally and may even engage in uncontrollable behavior. Those around them are likely to bear the brunt of their emotional turmoil. Dealing with emotional individuals, you never know what might trigger them or how to console them. Their instability can affect your own emotions. Sometimes, you want to communicate effectively, but they refuse to listen. They have their own stubborn beliefs, and if you don't agree, you might face their attacks. These situations leave you feeling exhausted, even though you know they're kind and caring when they want to be. Still, you feel the urge to escape. When you have these thoughts, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. You're just afraid of being hurt by them. So, how do we deal with them and minimize our own hurt? When dealing with emotional people, there are typically two approaches: distancing yourself to protect your own well-being or accommodating their emotions to maintain the relationship. However, some relationships are not easily severed, but sacrificing yourself long-term isn't advisable either. Therefore, the best approach is to find a middle ground where you can maintain the relationship without sacrificing your own emotional well-being. Here are some suggestions. Firstly, acknowledge your own emotional feelings and accept them. Tell yourself why you're angry, as this can help resolve issues. Secondly, identify the root of the emotions and have an open conversation with the other person, letting them understand the hurt they've caused. Lastly, let go of expectations and maintain psychological distance. Don't expect the other person to change, which might lead to pleasant surprises. Most importantly, protect your own emotions. Perhaps that's all you need. William and Eric met at the coffee shop, chatting lively. William held a steaming latte in his hand, while Eric had a fragrant cappuccino. They sipped their coffee and exchanged laughter, discussing the joys and troubles of everyday life. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting patterns on the coffee shop floor. William noticed Eric's expression turning increasingly melancholic, his eyes reddening as if burdened by some inner turmoil. This sudden change puzzled William, who set down his cup and looked at Eric with concern, softly asking, "Eric, what's wrong? Is something bothering you?" Eric lifted his head, attempting a smile, but his eyes betrayed deep worry and distress. "Oh, it's nothing. Just some trivial matters," he replied vaguely, his voice tinged with resignation and unease. A pang of concern stirred within William. He knew Eric wasn't one to easily share his troubles, but he wasn't willing to give up. Firmly, he gazed at Eric and said, "If there's anything troubling you, I'm here to listen. Perhaps we can share the burden together." Observing Eric's expression filled with worry and curiosity, William waited silently for his friend's response, hoping to understand the inner turmoil. Yet, Eric remained unresponsive, his brows furrowed and lips tightly sealed, as if struggling to conceal his pain. "Eric, you can tell me. I'm your friend," William gently urged, attempting to break Eric's silence. However, Eric paid no heed to his words, just sighed deeply, head bowed. Suddenly, Eric lifted his head, eyes flashing with anger. He slammed the table, his voice trembling. "Leave me alone. What do you know? His tone brimmed with discontent and fury, as if unleashing all grievances and displeasures upon William. Startled by Eric's sudden outburst, William stood there bewildered, filled with confusion and helplessness. He had intended to offer genuine comfort to Eric, yet his goodwill had ignited the other's wrath. This reaction left him unable to comprehend and unsure how to respond. Under William's observation, he noticed Eric's emotions fluctuating unusually, from cheerful to deeply despondent. William attempted multiple times to engage in deep conversation with Eric, hoping to address the distress caused by these emotional fluctuations. However, each time he tried to console Eric, the latter showed reluctance to listen, even responding with fiery remarks attacking William. This gradually left William feeling mentally and emotionally drained, troubled by the friendship. During one attempt to communicate, William softly said to Eric, "Eric, I really care about you. Seeing you oscillate between happiness and sadness, I want to know what's going on. We can face it together and find a solution." However, Eric coldly glanced at William, replying, "Stop bothering me. I can handle it on my own. What do you know? Don't try to advise me. Don't annoy me anymore." A sense of heaviness weighed on William's heart. He tried to understand Eric's inner turmoil, but the latter's resistant attitude left him at a loss. William gradually realized that Eric might feel uncomfortable with his care, or it could be his own issue that Eric couldn't confront or explain. From a standpoint of friendship, William found himself in a helpless situation. He tried hard to sustain the friendship, but each interaction became filled with pressure and frustration. Such troubles accumulated, leaving William deeply perplexed about the relationship. Whenever he attempted to approach Eric's inner world, he was met with rejection, creating an invisible barrier. William couldn't help but ponder whether such a friendship was worth his repeated efforts. He weighed his emotional investment against the returns but struggled to find a balance. He hoped to understand Eric but was unwilling to exhaust himself in the relationship. This complex and entangled psychological struggle gradually left William feeling confused about friendship. After a period of internal struggle and reflection, William decided not to get caught up in Eric's emotions, and he began actively trying to engage in deeper communication with Eric. "Eric, let's sit down and have a good talk." William gently patted Eric's shoulder, expressing his sincerity and concern. Eric looked up, a hint of surprise and puzzlement in his eyes. "What do you want to talk to me about?" William smiled as he sat opposite Eric, gazing into his eyes, and sincerely said, "I understand you might feel uncomfortable with the concern I've expressed, but I want you to know I don't want to lose our friendship." Eric remained silent for a moment, sensing the sincerity and honesty in William's words. He realized that perhaps he had been too emotional, causing William distress. Taking a deep breath, he attempted to calm his emotions. "I'm sorry, William. I might have been too sensitive. I didn't mean to." William smiled and shook his head. "It's okay, Eric. Everyone has their moments of emotional instability." And so, William and Eric began to openly exchange their thoughts and feelings. They discussed the reasons behind their emotional fluctuations and found some ways to address the issues.